Jason Sorella here at Creative Audio Studios, and I apologize for the sound quality. Apparently I need a new microphone, and we're only getting sound out of one speaker while I'm speaking, so we'll just deal with it. People have been asking for more videos, so here's a video that shows the workup of a design I did for the Jean-Claude Van Jamme band here in Austin, Texas. Arik Pearson got a hold of me. He wanted some designs for a giant robo mecha kind of thing, like a Gundam kind of thing, and I haven't done anything like that in a long time. I thought it would be cool, so I just wanted to walk you guys through the process so you can see how this all came together. Generally, when taking on a commission or negotiating commission, I try to rely on the strength of my portfolio to get me the gig. The subject matter may not be what you're looking for, but you can tell by the strength of my technique and my style whether or not I'm the artist you're looking for, or if you need to look elsewhere. When people ask for a sketch of the idea before they pay you, unfortunately it's been my experience that more often than not they're looking for some free artwork. So if you look at this particular sketch, you'll see that it's really rough. And I understood that this sketch would be required because if you look at my portfolio, it's a lot of fetish art, it's a lot of women, and this guy's looking for a robot. So there's not a lot of that in my portfolio, and he just wanted to know if I understood what he was talking about conceptually. He was looking for a Gundam-style robot with musical instruments for weapons. He has a specific list of instruments and where he wanted them placed, and this was just to convey that I understood the idea, the concept, and that I would be able to handle going ahead and getting this taken care of for him. So it's really bad, and I'm just glad that he looked at it and the band looked at it and they liked what they saw for whatever reason. So as soon as we got the green light, we went ahead and moved forward with the actual design. I prefer to draw on Bristol board. This is an 11 by 14 inch Bristol board. It's a smooth Bristol board. I prefer the smooth surface to a toothed surface, and it's all just a matter of preference, and this is just what I dig working on. Initially the sketch will be in pencil, and then of course I'll move on to a micron pen. I start out with just some lines and some joints, what some people would refer to as a wireframe kind of drawing, just to get an idea of where I want things positioned, and I have a good idea in my head what I want this to look like when it's all said and done. So this is just, the beginnings of figuring out proportion and things of that nature. This is where the sketch starts. Next, I just sketch out some general shapes, begin to bulk it out, really figure out the proportions and the relation of different parts of the mech to other parts of the mech. It's a humanoid shape, but I'm not beholden to human proportions with this because obviously it's not a human being. So I get to play around with mass and size and accentuate some things and deal with some things, and that's just the beauty of designing giant robots. Now, I haven't done this type of design since I was a kid, so there's a little bit of the old Transformers that kind of works into this design. That's the mecha I was familiar with, and of course Robotech. I really didn't get into the whole Gundam thing, and I noticed that the Gundams have more elegant lines, if you will, in their mecha designs. That really isn't my thing, but it is something I wanted to work into this because the gentleman who wanted the commission, he mentioned Gundam, so that will come up. But initially, you got here a what I consider a very Transformer-looking type of design, and this is just giving me some general ideas as to where I want things. I'm just slapping shapes, squares and circles and things like that onto the initial sketch, just to get a robo feel to the overall sketch and design. Now, there is a bit of a jump between the sketch that I just showed you and the ink drawing that appears here. The reason for this jump, this unsmooth transition, is that a lot of the robot's design happened while I was inking the sketch that you saw just a moment ago. I wasn't always certain as to exactly what shape things were going to take, so here I am, drawing it and inking it as I move forward. So when I decided that on, like, let's say on the thigh there was going to be this particular shape of armor plate, then I would draw it, I would ink it, and then I would go back and draw the armor plate on the opposite thigh, and that's how the whole thing built up. So it was either have this sudden jump from the rough sketch to the inked finished drawing here, or have a bunch of little tiny images of very minuscule changes being made. So here we are, just for time's sake. This is the finished drawing. I did reference a number of different Gundams and mechs through this process, so I'm not at all going to claim that I designed any of this as an original design. I borrowed from all kinds of mecha and Gundams, mixed and matched, picked out things I liked, and came up with this overall design. So my clients and I tend to communicate with one another via the internet. They receive digital copies of their artwork normally. They normally don't ask for the actual physical copies because it's just not necessary for what it is they're doing. Although, of course, if anybody wanted the physical copy of this stuff, I'd be happy to go ahead and give it to them. I mean, it's theirs. So here's the digital image of the design you just saw a moment ago. It's been processed into Photoshop, and this is the rough initial phase of that process. Now I use Photoshop almost to the exclusion of any other type of program you can use for manipulating images. And what I do here to get this really clean look with the image is I go through and I select every area of white, from the largest to the most minuscule that I think is important to the design. And I'll select that with the selection tool, and then I will erase the image, all those white areas, cleaning them up as much as possible. And then I will reverse the selection and use the airbrush tool to paint the whole thing black, the selected areas. So you end up with a really sharp black and white contrast, and it looks really clean. It's tedious, and I guess I could go in and adjust it using the brightness and contrast and all that, but I found that it's really haphazard to do that with the Photoshop that I use, and this just seems to result in a cleaner image. It takes a little bit more time, but I'm one of those knuckleheads that kind of enjoys that kind of tedium. Now these instruments that you see, these are the instruments that the band actually uses. There's a baritone saxophone, there's a clarinet, don't ask me what type of clarinet, there's a slide trombone, a couple of basses on his back for wings, and I used images in Google to reference these instruments, but these angles I don't think existed, especially on the three wind instruments. Since the angles didn't exist, I had to create them. So you purists out there who are musicians, I apologize if I got it wrong. This is as close as I could get based on the information I had, and it turned out pretty well, I think. As for the coloring of the instruments, they're supposed to be weapons. They're supposed to be this is space vehicle, and they're supposed to be these weapons, these energy weapons. So that's why I went with kind of the glowing blue and what have you. For the color on the mech itself, I wanted to use bold kind of primary colors. This is going to be set in a background of black space, and I didn't want the mecha to be too dark, so I wanted it to stand out in contrast to the background, so that's why it's an off-white for the majority of it with some bright highlights. And I'm, again, a kid of the 80s, so Robotech was the mecha that I used to watch, and I don't even remember what they're called, but I know that they were these white Veritechs with the skull and crossbone symbols for the particular particular squad that was the hero squad or whatever. So this white mecha kind of hails back to all that. Finally, we put the mech in space, and the space scene that I did here, this is kind of fun. It's all created digitally. I watched some street vendors create with airbrush these outer space planet scenes, these fantastic scenes, and it was all based on the technique, the way they handled the paint. They had different objects to stencil out certain pieces of the paper they were painting on. It was all done very quickly, and the result was always very cool. The process I used to do this background is pretty much the same. Put a circle on on Photoshop, use the airbrush to wave in different patterns of color, go in with the blur tool and mix it up a little bit, and then the space backdrop is just black stars with this airbrush path of white, this kind of Milky Way thing, and then going through and just putting in little points of light and color to create these different stars. And then, of course, the sun there in the background, whatever that star is, that again is the circle with just different shades of yellow and white used to give it that effect. And a little bit of shading on the orb of the planet, and boom, you got outer space. I wanted to mention also the laser saw on the saxophone couldn't be done separately from the space background. It had to be done as part of the background, the overall image. Basically, because if I try to do it on the robot design separate from the background, well, then when I went to transfer over the robot, all the white space that was in that transition from the actual thick red laser to the points, it would have been white, and by putting it right on top of the planet or whatever, when they get the background showing through, it just gives it a better effect, in my opinion. I had a lot of fun putting this whole thing together. It was some nostalgia for me to be able to go back and design this giant robot. I haven't done anything like that for a long time, so this was a good time. I love the concept of the weapons being instruments and things like that. And I wanted to thank the Jean-Claude Van Jamme band for letting me go ahead and do this for them, being selecting me as their artist. Can't wait for the T-shirts and the CD cover and everything to come out. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. And if you're interested in having some artwork commissioned, feel free to get a hold of me. The email address is sorrellart, SORRELLART, at hotmail.com, or the website's www.creativeaudistudios.com. You'll see some, on the commissions page, you'll see some information about standard commissions. And if you have something special you have in mind, just get a hold of me. We'll talk about what I can do for you and what my rates would be and what have you. So thanks for checking this out.